So I wanted to take a quick look at this push bubble pop button toy from Amazon. Seems to be one of the best selling things on Amazon right now as far as toys and fidget toys and children's stuff go. And so I picked one up. It was about $8 or $9, and it seems like it's sold by a huge variety of manufacturers. That's sort of just a play tool, but also like something to keep kids calm in class, and just a general sort of like fidget toy. Again, they seemed like they were selling like hotcakes on Amazon, so I was curious what the deal was. This one was from one of the kind of no-name brands. It seems like none of them are being sold by any major manufacturers, and they're all about the same. Some are square, some are rectangular, some are triangular. This one was round. It was sold as a single pack. Sometimes they're sold in packs of 2 or 3, and they come in different colors, but essentially all seem to be the same. It's a lightweight silicone. It has these cross beams here in order to reduce flex. It's some flex here, but it does give it some structure. And the point of it is you push these little bubbles in and out, and it's sort of satisfying. And you could push them all in one direction over time, and then just sort of pop them back. They don't really have a natural state. It's not like they prefer to be on one side or the other side, but it does seem to be a little bit easier to keep them in this direction. But upon a visual inspection, it doesn't seem like they're really like one side is too different than the other. It didn't have any real weird smell or anything like that. It came in a no-name package, just wrapped in plastic without any branding or anything like that. So it seemed like it was kind of one of those mass-produced things where they all come out of one factory and a bunch of different brands just slap their name on it, and they just sell them while the trend is hot. This one, I have to say, I'm a little bit disappointed in because these cross members here are a little bit uncomfortable for adult fingers. So basically this thing, as you push it in, it flexes, and your fingers get a little pinched by these sort of rigid beams here. And it being the winter with dried hands and stuff like that, it's a little bit uncomfortable. And this sort of stiff beam here kind of like pushes on your fingers in a little bit of an uncomfortable way, and it definitely can tear up your cuticles a little bit. But for kids and people with smaller hands, it's not a big deal. As far as the fidgetability goes, or fidgetness, or whatever you want to call it, like how interesting this thing stays over time, I would say it's okay. It definitely has a sort of satisfying appeal to it, where like the satisfying thing to it where you could push all these in, and they tend to hold on. Even if you flex like this, they will generally stay where you put them. Then you can kind of just pop them all back together. It's pretty quiet. It'd be a little bit distracting if someone was doing this in class or in a meeting or around their friends, but it's not that bad. And then you could push them in. Again, when you're pushing them in, you could definitely feel your fingers get pinched by these two beams. So that's a sort of unfortunate design. But I'm guessing without these, the whole thing would have been too flexy for the little bubbles to stay where they're supposed to go. So I would say it's like kind of like a fidget spinner in that it's satisfying, but over time you kind of get a little bit of tired of it. It's just not a huge amount of variation in what you're doing. I would say fidget spinner and some of the other fidget tools that have come out is probably more satisfying over time, and like sitting there while your code is compiling or doing whatever you're doing, you're on a conference call. This is fine, but not the best of the bunch. On the flip side, these things sell for between $6 and $10, so they're relatively affordable. The fact that it makes some noise is definitely a downside for classes and group settings and conference calls, and it's kind of an annoying noise. It's like it doesn't blend in with the background. It's definitely this sort of popping or dripping that does not sound like something you would expect to hear. As far as how well it's made, I feel like this thing is going to last forever. If anything, I feel like you're just going to throw it out because you're tired of having your cuticles pushed back by these. But again, that will be less of an issue for kids and people with smaller hands. From what I could tell, all the brands that sell these, they're selling the same thing. made probably at the same place or a very small number of places. I haven't seen any brands really excel or sell anything that's special. They seem to be, pretty much universal and about the same price. Anyway, so that's the names vary, so I don't even know what to call it. But it was called the push button pop bubble fidget toy or something like that. Like if you start searching around for that on Amazon and places like that, you'll definitely find it. And I'll link to it in the comments below as well as the notes. So just a quick review of that. I would say it's interesting, but I'm not particularly impressed with it. And something you probably use for a couple hours or a couple conference calls or a couple classes or whatever, and then get rid of. I'd like to see a smaller version. I'd like to see it without these members, these cross members. I'd like to see it in slightly denser material so that it has some more structure and a little bit more of a satisfying feel to it. That of course would make it louder, but if you're using this on your own while you're watching a movie or just kind of hanging out, then that won't be a big deal. And then this thing could probably do well by having like a 4-piece size, something that I could affix to a keychain or something like that. You don't really need this many. There's no advantage to having 20 or 30 or 50 little push buttons. I guess, when you want to push them back in mass, that's like maybe fun, but it's more of the going back and forth than it is the long periods of pushing. Like that isn't more fun than just pushing them individually back and forth like that. And then lastly, it does pick up some dust and dirt and grime, and it's almost impossible to wash in this thing. So that's a little bit annoying, but you could probably just put it in a dishwasher or wash it off from soap and water with no problems. So that should cover it.